Hello, human. It's time for us to watch the next part of Common Sense Skeptics, debunking Elon Musk.
Welcome back for part 2 of our presentation, that is debunking Elon Musk. There is a part 1 to this presentation. If you haven't seen that one yet, please watch it first and then come back and join us for part 2.
Oh boy.
Another company Musk is often credited with founding is Tesla, mainly by rookie reporters and fanboys who confuse investing in a company with founding that company. Let's start off this segment with the brass tacks statement. Tesla Motors Inc. was founded by Mark Tarpenning and Martin Eberhard on July 1, 2003 in San Carlos, California. Tarpenning was a software engineer previously working for Textron, Seagate, Bechtel, and Packet Design as VP of Engineering. Martin Eberhard is an American engineer whose interest in sports cars brought him to Silicon Valley's first automobile company, assisting in the design of a prototype called the AC Propulsion T0. Together, the two men founded Nouveau Media in 1997, which built the very first e-reader in 1998 called the Rocket eBook. 2 years later, TV Guide bought that company from them for $187 million. They would team up again to found Tesla Motors Inc. after Eberhard had an epiphany from seeing a Prius parked next to a Porsche in a parking lot, and he wondered how to combine the electric dorkmobile with the sports car type styling. After some brainstorming, the vehicle they conceived, initially called the Porscheus, is what we now know to be the Roadster.
You know, that's a funny thing of like combining. There's something funny about that, of combining the nerdy or dorky Prius with the sporty Porsche. And you know, when you see a Tesla today, it seems like a status symbol. So it's kind of like a luxury vehicle, like automatically. And so when you see someone in a Tesla, you might automatically think this person has money, this person's rich. So the Tesla is now a status symbol.
The two men founded the company July 1, 2003, with Eberhard as the first CEO of Tesla Motors and Tarpenning as the first CFO, with the two of them financing this startup with their recent windfall from Nouveau Media. Weeks later, a mutual friend named Ian Wright joined the duo. Ian had more experience with vehicles than the partners, so he became Tesla's first VP of vehicle development, procuring supplying partners Lotus for drivetrains and AC Propulsion for motors. You'll notice, so far, Musk is nowhere near this story. Not the founding, not the initial investment, and not the vision. Unfortunately, for these two partners, when it came time to take the company public, they believed they needed more guidance, and they met with Musk to be the face of their $7.5 million Series A private funding round.
Then I have to ask, did they know about his history with Confinity and X.com? You know, the old X.com, you know, and Zip2. It's like if these guys could have done more of like a background check, you know, about this Elon Musk character, maybe this whole fiasco could have been avoided.
And handled the negotiations and valuation. In early 2004, Musk bought in on the condition that he was named chairman of the company, despite having no experience in any aspect of the company at all. So the $6.5 million that Musk ponied up had two effects. It gave the company the cash they needed to continue development, but it also hobbled the original team with having Musk as the majority investor. The symbiosis previously enjoyed by the founding partners now had to contend with an interjecting narcissist directing their development efforts. It took no time for Ian Wright to see the writing on this wall. He left in 2004, shortly after Musk came on board, to start up his own EV conversion company called Wrightspeed. Adding to the tension, articles written by the media regarding Tesla fawned over the actual founders of the company, largely ignoring Musk and his money. This created a purple-headed monster in Musk who it seems always needs to be the focus of attention. In hindsight, it's doubtful either original founder is happy with how things turned out, because after 3 years of butting heads, Musk orchestrated yet another coup, again targeting the CEO position. Martin Eberhard, the man whose vision brought the Roadster to life, which was unveiled in 2006, was ousted from the CEO position of the very company he co-founded by Musk in November of 2007. Newly installed CEOs, originally Michael Marks, then an outsider named Zeev Drury, were installed as Musk puppets, despite the fact that neither had any automotive domain experience. To remove Eberhard as CEO from the board that Musk appointed, Musk held Eberhard personally responsible for the cost overruns in the Roadster production, costs that Musk was actually responsible for by insisting on a number of expensive revisions to the vehicle, including that the body be built out of expensive carbon fiber composites instead of normal body panel materials.
It seems somewhat comparable to the Zip2 experience, where supposedly Elon Musk was too demanding on the programmers, and it seems he's also too demanding on the car design. And to me, this is a sign that you should not allow someone to take majority stake of your company whenever possible, unless you're ready to really sell out.
Originally, after Musk removed Eberhard as CEO, under newly appointed CEO Michael Marks, Eberhard was to be moved to CTO, receiving the same salary as his CEO position. Although upset, Eberhard agreed to this to ensure the continuity of the company. But that remedy only lasted 5 weeks, because behind closed doors, Musk kept insisting to Marks that Eberhard had to be gone completely, another instance of Musk abusing the genius who brought the company to life. Now, instead of being CTO with an annual salary, Eberhard was handed a take-it-or-leave-it severance package of 6 months' pay, benefits, and 62,500 shares of stock. Eberhard refused and continued working as CTO. 4 months later, Musk replaced Marks with Drury, yet another Musk stooge. The same day that Drury took the job, Musk confronted Eberhard and told him he needed to leave. Musk then threatened to convert enough of his own stock options to common stock to give him the ability to single-handedly can Eberhard, which left the company's original visionary with no option but to leave. The next day, November 28, 2007, Eberhard was gone. Not long afterwards, Drury was also terminated as CEO. Musk then took it upon himself to occupy the seats of both chairman and CEO, which is something that no board of directors should ever allow. Eberhard sued Musk in 2009 for libel, slander, and breach of contract. His 147-page legal filing outlined the unceremonious ouster from his company and the treatment he suffered at the hands of Musk, who he also accused of trying to rewrite history, taking credit for the machine that Eberhard, Tarpenning, and Wright had built. Musk now had the unmitigated gall, as it turns out, to add himself to the founders of the company, when, as we noted before, Musk was nowhere near the company when the two original founders signed the paperwork. The company.
There's something metaphysical, I might be abusing the word, but there's something kind of metaphysical or something about the fact that he was fired from Confinity before it converted into PayPal, and then he claims, or people at least claim, that he was a founder of PayPal, and then now after that he joins Tesla and takes over Tesla and becomes this kind of dictatorial, person who hires unqualified people to maintain his own power while removing unqualified people so that he can get prestige for himself. This is selfishness. This is corruption, moral corruption of character. And it's my point is right now that he was fired from the company. He was fired from a company that later became PayPal, and he wanted to prevent himself from being removed again. And so once he got to Tesla, he basically learned his lesson, but in kind of basically the evil way, where he was like, okay, instead of trying to do the things that would make me popular and likable or whatever, I'm instead going to do the tactics that would give me absolute power so I cannot be challenged.
The company's board, loaded up now with Musk stooges, rewrote the company history to include Musk as an original founder, and since then the world has been under the impression that this is true. But a lie is still a lie, no matter how many people believe it. Musk also wrongly denied Eberhard's severance, and publicly humiliated Eberhard with the false allegations of incompetence. Adding insult to injury, the man who breathed life into the Roadster, who was supposed to originally get the first one off the line, watched as Musk insisted he was entitled to that vehicle for himself, a man who contributed nothing to the designs except for expensive upgrades and cost overruns. There is even a certificate signed by Musk that appears on page 147 of Eberhard's lawsuit declaring that he was to get the first one off the line, and Musk still took it for himself. And you know what he did with it? Eberhard was then promised the second vehicle off the line, but Musk took that one as well, and he sold it to a friend of his. The vehicle Eberhard finally got, July 19, 2008, had to be completely rebuilt after a Tesla employee ran it into the back of a truck during testing and caused so much damage that the vehicle would have been written off, but it hadn't yet been insured. When Eberhard finally did get his Roadster, it was a rebuilt, write-off vehicle that didn't even have the upgraded essential drivetrain he was promised. It was refurbished, base model, B-stock, while the car he was promised was shot into space.
Wow.
For his part, Mark Tarpenning cut ties with Tesla at the same time that Eberhard got the boot, leaving the company without either of its founding members. Since Tarpenning wasn't thrown under the bus like Eberhard was, his separation was nowhere near as nasty. Tarpenning is currently a motivational speaker on the convention circuits and tech talks. He is now a partner at Spiro Ventures, investing in new startups himself. Oddly enough, he doesn't seem to feel the need to demand being chairperson on their boards, or usurping those companies away from the people who actually build them. Meanwhile, at Tesla,
I got the sense that this whole story is like a battle of the nerds, like the fucking alpha nerd Elon Musk taking over and dominating and replacing the beta nerds. Like Elon Musk is like the super alpha nerd with the big money who comes in and, you know, from that selfish, like, you know, master gorilla alpha male perspective, like removes and dominates his competition in like a toxic way, while these beta males like Tarpenning and whoever, like, they got displaced and they were not suspicious enough, they were not wary enough, they were not defensive enough about the ownership of their own company, so they got neutralized. And now we have to watch videos like this to actually know about them, despite the major contributions they made.
all spotlights continue to shine on Musk, even as lawsuits and class actions stack up. Under Musk's heavy hand, Tesla has seen more than its share of controversy and scandal. Musk and Tesla are currently litigants in over 700 ongoing lawsuits. Some of the more noted past and present legal actions include the illegal workers suit, claiming Musk not only used but abused illegal foreign workers to construct Tesla's paint shop. The UAW filed 4 separate charges with the National Labor Relations Board with regards to union-busting activities, including threats Musk made about withholding stock options from employees who wanted to unionize, a violation of labor law. The Tesla Model 3 factory has been fined so often for workplace safety violations that it has been declared the most dangerous automotive plant in North America. Musk was charged with fraud by the SEC for what is referred to as his 420 tweet. To avoid a criminal trial involving possible jail time, Musk agreed to pay $40 million in fines and step down as chairman of Tesla, a role currently ineptly filled by Robin Denholm, who has apparently failed in her duty to keep a tight rein on her eccentric and grossly overpaid CEO. Musk's compensation package is the subject of another class action lawsuit against him by shareholders, this action proceeding against him and his board later this year. And Tesla's bailout of Musk's failed Solar City is the subject of another class action suit in the billions of dollars, which goes to trial in 2021, which Musk now stands alone in defending, as all other named parties have agreed to settle. Okay, that brings us up to Solar City, which we've already done a 2-part episode on, demonstrating how Musk lies and hypes up nonsense concepts to benefit himself directly. In Neuralink, which was another 2-part episode we did, which outlines how Musk claims to have single-handedly founded a company, when not only is that not the case, but Musk lacks a basic understanding as to what the other co-founders have done and are doing. Hyperloop, which, let's be honest, it's been debunked to death, and the Las Vegas loop, due to open this month, is only going to make things worse. And SpaceX, which we have demonstrated time and again is focusing their attention on a flawed design destined to fail at...
Okay. I want to make a side comment. So, with the Neuralink and the Solar City, I think I'd rather watch the dedicated videos and maybe react to those. I'm currently not sure if I'm going to get any negativity from YouTube or CSS for doing these reaction videos or not. If the coast seems to be clear, I'll be more inclined to make more CSS reaction videos. But anyway, my point is that one thing I want to mention is there was this phase of time, like around 2015, where Elon Musk was promoting the Hyperloop, and he sounded pretty optimistic about it. He was talking about it, and then he was like in these situations where he was like talking to women in particular, like, yeah, I got a Hyperloop. Oh yeah, oh, and the woman's like, oh wow, you got a Hyperloop? Oh, so yeah, I got a Hyperloop. And it's just like, it seemed to be like when maybe he had higher T or more optimism or serotonin, something like that. And I guess he could have done more reproduction if he wanted. I guess that would have been a good time to produce more offspring, while the opposite party was willing or interested. I can't say too much. I can only guess to some extent. But I just wanted to mention that.
At the expense of their workhorse Falcon and Dragon programs, which Musk intends to phase out. But before we sign off on this episode, there's one more thing that we need to cover. We're going to end this episode by debunking the core of Musk's actual wealth, his 21% share of all Tesla stock. Sure, he has other investments, but it's the value of Tesla that drives his net worth the most. Every time that ticker symbol climbs, so does Musk's position on the world's list of billionaires. But the price of Tesla is irrational for a number of reasons, and therefore, so is his net worth. There's a saying in the investment community that unless a stock pays a dividend, it's pure speculation. Another more modern word for speculation is Ponzi scheme. The following is a simplistic example of why that tends to hold true. Keep in mind this is a very simplistic model. Do not take this as financial advice or gospel by any stretch. It is for illustrative purposes only as to the basic nature of buying and selling shares. Before a company goes public, they undergo evaluation to determine what a reasonable value for the company is. There are several online valuation sites such as Clearbank that offer simple valuation tools. This assessment includes things like gross earnings and net profits, assets owned, intellectual property they license out, long-term fulfillment contracts, and operating expenses. Those details are plugged into a formula and a value is determined. That number is then divided by the number of shares the company wants to issue, including to the officers and investors of the company, and then the decision is made for how many shares it wants to release to the public. Let's use an imaginary company called Nunya Business, Inc. Let's say Nunya Business, Inc. received $1 million valuation. The brokerage can break down that valuation to $1,001 shares, or 200,000 $5 shares, or 1,000 $1,000 shares. Finding the sweet spot for that price is key because some investors won't touch a $1 stock, and most day traders won't look at $1,000 shares, which is why stocks with higher prices often split to lower the price per share. Nunya Business Inc. goes with a IPO price of $5. As a successful company, trading of these shares drives up the share price to $7, a 40% increase. But is the company instantly worth 40% more? No. It still has the same assets and earnings and IP, and the people who bought the shares for $7 are technically $2 underwater until someone else wants to buy them for more than $7.
This is pretty unrelated, but I just had the idea that you could apply calculus to the analysis of a stock graph. So, you can't really define the movement of a stock graph under a proper integral, like a true integral, but you can approximate the integral, the area under the curve, and then that might yield some useful data. I'm just kind of noticing that with this display here.
The area shaded in orange is unsupported by the valuation of the company because the valuation of the company hasn't changed. When you're buying a stock with no dividend, what you're looking for are shares that are being sold for less than their company's proper valuation, where the shaded green area represents the headspace for profit before even reaching the company's valuation. So how is that different from dividend stock? Companies that are doing well, that want to give a portion of their profits back to their investments directly, publicly announce dividends on their shares. You can find them on your trading platform, often right in the form of a calendar or even on the stock quote page. There are 4 dates to make note of: the declared date, the ex-div date, the date of record, and the payment date. If you buy shares before the ex-div date and hold until the record date, you will be paid on the payment date. If you sell before that date or buy after that date, you won't qualify for the disbursement. Let's go back to Nunya Business Inc. Thanks to the successful IPO and increased awareness of the company, they secured a huge multi-million-dollar government contract that resulted in a windfall and announced a $2 per share dividend payable on March 1st with the ex-div date of February 26th. Between now and February 25th, you can expect the share price to rise closer to $7, and on February 28th, the price will likely drop back closer to $5. Why is that? Investors who know the $5 value of the share is based on a solid valuation of the company might be willing to sell their shares to someone for $6, and the person buying the share for $6 will still make a $1 profit per share buying now, collecting the dividend, and selling after the dividend has been paid out. The person who sold the share for $6 doesn't collect the dividend, but they made a 20% profit on the sale, and they could buy the share back once again when the price settles at $5. The option the original holder had was to hold the stock and collect $2 per share, which would certainly make more sense for some shareholders, but if you watch such market action, there is a constant flow of shares from sellers to buyers leading up to the ex-div date. The point is, this share price increase is fully supported because the company is giving profits back to the shareholders. But Tesla doesn't do that. In fact, their stated policy on their investor relations website is that Tesla has not declared, and has no plans to ever offer, a dividend on their shares. Not 1 penny. And that should set off alarm bells for any prudent investor. If share prices are rising without benefit of a dividend, what's the cause of the rise in price? Is it because the company is making tons of profit? Definitely not. Tesla claims to be making...
Might as well make a comment here. I got into an argument with my friend, and he was arguing that it's okay for Tesla to not pay a dividend because of the growth potential, but at some point, like, we can't, if we expect this company to exist long term, we can't expect it to always be growing rapidly. Surely it has to reach like an equilibrium, like a plateau, like a stability point. So like, why should I continue to, why should I invest in this company if they're not going to pay a dividend? And if they're not going to pay a dividend, it becomes a speculative stock.
Making more and more revenue every year, indicated here in the green bars dating back to 2016. But the blue bars are how much money the company spent on top of those earnings to conduct business, an average of about $1 billion in the whole, despite making over $24 billion in revenue for fiscal 2019. And once Musk has to start paying rent at the Chinese gigafactory he does not own, you can add another $323 million a year to those blue bars. And he has another $2 billion in loans to pay back to the Chinese government in the next 5 years. If Tesla fails to pay, the Chinese government will evict Musk from Giga 3 and keep everything on site.
Oof. Rough.
Here's another way to illustrate how out of whack Tesla's stock price is. You compare their market cap as of today and the number of cars they produce to other major auto manufacturers in their most recent reporting using current stock prices. Ford, with a share price of $10.04, has a market cap of $39.25 billion US and is paying a 5.97% dividend. Last year, Ford produced 4.31 million vehicles. GM, with a share price of $54.35, has a market cap of $77.82 billion US, and they're paying a 2.8% dividend. Last year, GM produced 7.71 million vehicles. Tesla, with a share price of $836.80 per share, has a market cap of $793.62 billion US, and is paying no dividend. Last year, Tesla produced 499,550 vehicles. Just for fun, let's see how this breaks down per vehicle. If you take the market cap of Ford and you divide it by the deliveries, that comes out to a little over $9,100 per delivery. You do the same for GM, and that's a little over 10 grand. But when you do that to Tesla, their number is a ridiculous $1.6 million per vehicle, or about 45 times the price of a new Model 3.
Wow.
Now, just to be clear, this was for fun. That's not a metric anyone would actually use. The stock's price-earnings ratio, however, is considered by every serious investor out there. It's an apples-to-apples comparison of the company's stock price versus earnings. According to Investopedia, the higher the ratio, the more potentially overvalued the stock is. Some examples from the world of tech companies with trillion-dollar valuations are Amazon with a PE ratio of 91.39, Microsoft at 34.92, and Apple at 39.13. In the automotive industry, it's very rare to see these ratios over 20, and most of them are under 10. GM is the highest PE of the big three at 24.39. But Tesla? 1658.82. That's unheard of, even in the world of tech. To get that ratio down to a more reasonable spot where GM sits, they would have to divide their stock price without splitting the stock by 68 to $12.30 per share. Or they have to increase...
He might make this point already, but this is like the power of hype. This is the power of like having a grand vision. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make things better. Technology is going to save us. And then having the certain aesthetic, having a culture, giving off at least the impression of having a vision. And, with that type of thing, that is partially where this stock price comes from. People may have this belief that it still has growth potential. And I don't know how much of that there is. To me, it's kind of dubious. I mean, a lot of some people argue at least that the market for electric vehicle buyers has already passed. I personally would not buy one because I'd want the ability to travel long distances without charging. And gasoline is still much more accessible than charging for vehicles. And I'd rather be ready for an apocalypse scenario. I think an electric vehicle in an apocalypse scenario is extremely unreliable. If we're going to expect the apocalypse to happen, we are better off using gas vehicles than electric.
increased their earnings from 52 cents per share to about $35.36 per share. Those are the only two ways you can obtain the PE level of an automaker. If Musk's entire fortune was tied up in Tesla stock, and the Tesla stock price incurs a correction that would bring it in line with other automakers, Musk's net worth would drop from $182 billion to a little under $2.67 billion. Still more than enough for a mere mortal to live on, if it was his free and clear. But according to Forbes real-time reporting, half of Musk's Tesla shares are collateral against loans in his name. Meaning, if that stock correction ever happened, Musk would still be billions upon billions of dollars in debt after handing over every cent he had to his creditors. And it would appear he's forgotten all about the pledge he made last year to donate half of his wealth to charity, even though that too made headline news in September in the same publication that's now tracking his wealth in real time.
This kind of reminds me of what Nietzsche said about honesty, and once to be a noble man, you have to follow through on what you promise. And I think with that being the case, you also have to be reluctant. You have to be careful about what you promise to do. And if I could have given him advice, Mr. Musk, I would have advised him to not make such a pledge, just because it hurts him. It's going to hurt him more in the long term, because people have plenty of incentive, desire to hold people accountable. If you're a high-profile, wealthy person. And so, now he's getting called out on YouTube by Common Sense Skeptic. I think this video's had over 900,000 views in 2 years, which is respectable. And, Musk is getting called out. I'm sure other people calling him out too for not doing what he promised. And also, this is a great point about avoiding debt. Because it seems that Elon Musk is in a situation where he's in so much debt that if the proverbial house of cards collapses in terms of the stock valuations, then he could end up in a terrible situation. He could crash down to zero. I had an intuition that he could crash, like, as a person. And the mechanism of that wasn't very clear to me before, but I can totally see a debt crunch, like a margin call situation coming up on him. Especially with some of these other bad things going on, such as like the Twitter fiasco and things of that nature.
As with everything in this world of social media and non-stop news cycles, optics seem to matter much more than reality. And journalists were very quick to jump on stories declaring Musk to be the richest man in the world. But Musk is much less the richest man in the world than he is riding the biggest stock bubble of the decade. He keeps that bubble inflated with hype, and the reliance on his fans that no matter how high the stock price climbs, there will always be somebody else blinded enough by Musk's facade to pay even more for it. For now. Eventually, those blinders will fall off. That's the definition of a Ponzi scheme, a house of cards. And when it collapses, so too will the fortunes of Elon Musk.
Aww.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Common Sense Skeptic. 2021 is shaping up to be a roller coaster of space and tech news, and we'll be riding right along with you for every twist and turn. Share the channel with your friends.
Alright, thank you CSS for making this video. You've been a major influence on me in terms of opposing Elon Musk and his lies. And, I have to add that we need to uphold the principle of the truth as probably the primary key to virtue. And I think honesty is the core virtue. And I think it's the fundamental virtue behind other virtues such as integrity and faithfulness, and things of that nature, reliability, trustworthiness, things of that nature, maybe even empathy. But nevertheless, there's only so much I can say for now. I kind of saw how great the views were on the previous video, and I knew I had this sinking feeling that I needed to follow through and make the part 2. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can press the bell icon if you want. That would be to my benefit. I'd appreciate it. If at some point I hope to release an ebook and potentially a newsletter, so be on the lookout. That may happen in the future. And make sure to tune in to the Hegel Book Club going on later, and to any future videos about Elon Musk, metaphysics, or philosophy, or film critique. Alright, thank you. It's been Byron Goatman signing out.